irresponsible riot, you know, which we're due for, actually. I don't think we've had one since Martin Luther King was assassinated, so pray for us, maybe we'll do something soon. But, so this song I wrote last year, and yeah, I went down and my friend, who's not even from here, gave us a little tour of Hamburg last night, and we went down to the Hafenstrasse and saw all the history there, all the radical, revolutionary, autonomous movement history, and talked about that. And I was just reading about it in this book called The Subversion of Politics, which is kind of a history of the autonomous movement in Europe. And yeah, while folks in like 1987 and throughout the 80s were fighting here in Hamburg, people in the Lower East Side of New York were fighting, people in Copenhagen and Amsterdam, Nijmegen, Berlin, all over Italy, and actually all over the place. And sort of what this book that I was reading when I wrote this song was kind of looking at is how, like, you know, like people talk about 1968, especially recently, because the Olympics are going on, and famously in 1968 in Mexico City, there was the very famous moment in which two American athletes, both African American, you know, raised their fists in protest at the treatment of African Americans in the U.S. And a really cool part of that story, if you've seen, you know, you've seen this picture, right, of the two guys with their fists in the air on the gold and silver medal platform. And the guy on the bronze medal platform is this white Australian dude. But the black gloves that both of the guys are wearing are his black gloves. And so before they went up, they were like, "We want to raise our fists." And he was like, "Oh, you can have my gloves." You know, it's like, oh, good job, white Australian. Look at that. Way to go. But what this author looks at is he looks at like 1968 and he's like, look, 1968 didn't end on January 1st, 1969. Like, its legacy, it changed history in a lot of people's lives, and the directions that it went in are many, and he traces some of them. And so a lot of people have been talking, especially on the news, have been talking about 1968 because of the Arab Spring, and they want to paint the Arab Spring as something that has ended now, and they want to paint the Occupy movement as something that has ended now, and all of these things. And it's like, no, dude, this is going to be relevant in 20 years somewhere. You know, who knows what's going to happen in Cairo in 6 years, or in 16 years, you know? And there's all these young people in Egypt and all over the world right now who've been revolutionized. Their whole lives have been changed. The course of their history has been altered. And they're going to produce things, you know? And this song is kind of about that. And it's also like, so it was calling out like some of my friends from the older generation for being too nostalgic for 1968 and being like, oh, it's like the 60s. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's the 90s. It's not the 60s. Like, you can't keep putting us back in the 60s, damn it. But then I realized that I was kept on wanting to go back to 1999, to Seattle and all these things, and I was all nostalgic for the old days, you know? And then the Occupy movement kind of whooped my ass, and I was like, Jesus, I am not in touch with the present. There's a song about that. Well, it's best to know the worth of what you got before it's gone. But you can't let yourself get stuck, cause you're afraid you might be wrong. You're nostalgic for 68, I'm nostalgic for 99. But sometimes thinking back too much can make you close your eyes. Cause what we do today matters both today and tomorrow. Well, the point of learning history is to build something new. I don't care what you read about unless it impacts what you do. You want to recreate 68, you want to recreate 99. Try learning their hard lessons to reflect and then refine. Cause the good old days just suck sometimes if you ask those who were there. And the answers weren't just blown in the wind, they were put there. What we do today matters both today and tomorrow. simplified with passing on in time. And causes and effects sometimes take decades to define. I've seen the long shadow of 68 by the ruins of the Berlin Wall. I've seen the long shadow of 68 in Seattle. And looking back from here now, all the pieces seem to fit. Sometimes it's hard to notice the changing world when you're right inside of it. But without us, the future is a boat without a sail. Without our best attempts, we set the next ones up to fail. What we do today matters both today and tomorrow. I got like 4 or 5 more songs if folks are cool with it.